Kate Mila Falcher, welcome to Irish Granny Helen. And welcome back, Debbra Lupien, voice of the Akashic Records. Hello, Deborah.
Hello. Thanks for inviting me. We're going to have some fun.
Looks like a dark and stormy night over there.
Yeah.
Do you want us to pause this so you can go get a coat? It looks very cold behind you.
I'm good. I have my shield on.
So who are we doing tonight?
We're doing the Idaho murder mystery that I don't know very much about. So we're going to all learn about it.
I always feel like it's better when you don't. You know, it's how do I say this without sounding like I'm making accusations? Because I'm not. It's too easy for people because they do it to me all the time. Oh, you're just putting your opinion out there. Yeah. And if you don't know about a case, excellent. That's very good. And we haven't talked about this other than the fact that where he lives, you're familiar with. And did I tell you something about him? I don't think I did I?
I don't think so. No.
Well, I read the first book that came out. It's very good. I watched all the documentaries. There's one that's particularly good that focuses on the family and friends of the victims. It's multi-episodic. And there's another one that's not so good. You know, it depends on when they came out. Everybody wants to be the first one to cover it, get the scoop. But then they miss out on things as the case develops, as they uncover more evidence, as they learn more about the actual dynamics of the situation. There was a lot of focus at the beginning on the victims, as usual, you know, blaming the victims. Why didn't they lock their house? Why were they always having parties? A lot of stuff like that. And why were they on social media? You know, when a young woman has the unfortunate experience of a physical, you know, first question is what you were wearing, right? Yeah. So I wanted to focus on what motivated the murders, not who the victims were, so that we can blame them. I hate that. So I didn't spend a lot of time describing their family problems and their backgrounds and their grades in the third grade. That's irrelevant. All that stuff is irrelevant. They had the great misfortune of being at the wrong place at the wrong time. They were doing exactly what they should have been doing. They were home in their beds. You know, it's very, very sad. The real unknown factor is the perpetrator. And so we're going to talk about him. And with that in mind, I watched a number, I have a ton of notes of psychiatrists who talked at great length about him. Some really interesting theories. But let's ask Brian Kohberger, who finally confessed. He was going to fight it in court, and I think to get the death penalty off the table and to not have his family have to testify. We don't know for sure, but that's the suspicion. He decided to take a plea deal, and he confessed to the whole thing and got life in prison. So, you know, he's locked up and they're going to throw away the key. He'll never get out. But it leaves some unanswered questions because he did not explain anything. So this is going to be very valuable. I'm really glad we're doing this. So let's talk to Brian Kohberger. Let's have you look at his Akashic records because he's still alive. And I want to start out asking about his childhood. He, I believe, now this is my opinion, so let's see what you come up with. I believe that, you know, nature versus nurture, that old argument. Sociopaths technically are damaged people from their upbringing and their experiences, traumas and abuses in their lives, and they turn to a life of crime. And then psychopaths are born that way. Not 100% agreement in the world of psychology, but in a nutshell, nature versus nurture. I believe with him, there was a little bit of both, but I think he was born that way because he was problematic from day one. So let's talk to Brian Kohberger.
Okay.
So my first question would be, when in his childhood did he realize he was different?
Okay. And just to clarify for people who don't know, because he's still alive, I can't go into his records without his permission, but I can
Oh,
go into my records and I can invite his soul to meet me there and have a conversation. So that's our
oh,
workaround.
oh. How long have we been doing this? And I guess I didn't realize that.
Well, I think we've talked about it, but in passing. Usually we're talking
Well,
to deceased people, so it doesn't matter.
well, you know
Yeah.
me, in one ear, out the other.
Yeah, that's okay. So,
All right,
I
all
mean,
right. Okay,
yeah.
so let's just
So I'm just going to pop
find
into
out.
my records and I'll invite him. So it'll take just a second. And I get a big yes, he's ready to talk. So that's a good thing. So, Brian, what we would like to know is, was there a point in your childhood when you noticed or felt that you were different from other children? Yeah, he's saying at 5, when he went to kindergarten, it became obvious that he was different. He would have dark thoughts and impulses that most of the other kids were not having. And it's like, I'm feeling like he was branded a troublemaker early on. I mean, can you verify that?
Well, I can tell you that he was very overweight and really bullied because of it, and really hated females because of that, and had, which we're going to pursue, an interesting relationship with his parents. But I'm curious, did he start acting out those fantasies? You know how early on kids with these sorts of issues will be torturing animals or victimizing younger children. Did he do those kinds of things?
Okay, so Brian, what do you say about that? He thought about it, but did you act on it? Did you ever act on those impulses? He's saying he didn't, but I feel like he's lying.
So the rumor is he's autistic, and that's not to imply that people with autism are in any way mentally ill or dangerous. This guy's unique.
Yeah.
But he was very socially awkward. He had trouble reading other people. Is that true? Because it's hard to parse his issues to what to ascribe them,
Okay. So, Brian, would you say that it's true that you're neurodivergent? Were you diagnosed? Do you feel that way? I don't think he was diagnosed, but he felt it. He felt that it's almost like there was a wall between him and, quote, normal people. So he felt that distance and that inability to really connect. And of course, the more he felt it, the more disconnected he felt. And it kind of spiraled.
Does he think that there's a genetic component? His grandfather and his great uncle were both in the criminal life. It seems like maybe there was a little familial tendency.
Okay. So what do you say about that, Brian? Was there some kind of a inherited trait, do you think, that you got? It's weird. He's saying in his family, it's like they told stories about those people and they mythologized them, which made it like something positive. And because of his lack of ability of understanding, quote, normal people, he was drawn in by that, and that just really appealed to him. So he sort of put them on a pedestal.
And could that easily be a way for you to be rationalizing what you did, making excuses?
So what do you think, Brian? Trying to be honest here. Is that just an excuse? Or is that actually true? He's saying he had trouble distinguishing between what was real and what was fantasy.
Could he describe his relationship with his mother?
So what about Mom? Mom overcompensated because she saw the struggles that he had and was very worried about him. So she overcompensated to the point that it was like he was a mommy's boy, and he didn't develop the level of independence that would have really aided him as he was developing into a young man. So it's almost like she hobbled him. That's the feeling.
He had a very immature relationship with his parents. He's a 28-year-old PhD student. First time he ever lived away from his parents' home. And he called them when he woke up in the morning, and he called them last thing at night when he went to bed. And he has phone records of talking to his mother for large chunks of time, an hour here, an hour there, throughout the day. So yeah, she hobbled him. Both of his parents hobbled him. When he came home for Christmas holiday, that last Christmas before he was arrested, before he was even on anybody's radar, so nobody had any idea that he was involved. His father went and brought him home. He's 28 years old, and his father went across the country. He lived in Pennsylvania, his father. So yeah, I thought that was really unusual. What was his relationship like with his sister? His sister's a licensed psychologist.
Interesting.
Uh-huh.
So what about your sister? Did you get along with your sister? He said that's the reason she became a psychologist.
Yeah, it's kind of what I thought.
Growing up with him. So yeah, I think it feels like she found him strange and fascinating, and it motivated her to learn more. But it doesn't feel like she did much about it.
Well, I would say ask yourself, what could she have done?
I don't know.
She couldn't approach him because, that would have gone nowhere. She probably realized approaching her parents was futile. You'll see more. There's more coming up here, and you'll see what I mean. So the next question I have is, when did he start using heroin?
So, is it true that you used heroin?
Oh, it's true.
I want to ask him.
Oh.
Yeah, he's reluctantly admitting it. So, when did that start for you? He's saying sophomore year of college.
Are you sure? I think it was high school.
Maybe. Did I get that wrong? Was it high school? I definitely heard sophomore. That was very clear.
I think it was 15, which would be sophomore.
Yeah. Okay.
So when he was 17, he stole a car, and his father turned him in. Could he talk about that?
So can you talk about stealing the car and your father turning you in? He was devastated. He felt betrayed that his father would turn him in. It was crushing for him because his parents were his lifeline. They were everything. And he never thought that his father would betray him in that way. So it cut him very deeply. It left really negative imprint that had ripple effects.
It's interesting. He describes it as a betrayal because, as a parent, I don't know. I understand the dilemma, but you cannot be complicit in something like that as a parent. That's a felony, and it's a big one. Grand theft auto.
You can't, but That's the pattern that he had with his parents.
I know.
They always took care of him.
I
He
know.
thought they always would, and then all of a sudden he hits this wall. That's betrayal. That's how he felt.
That's how he felt. They put him in rehab a number of times. That's why, you mentioned something about getting him help. They tried. They did try. However inadequate, getting hiccups. However inadequately, they would have probably behooved them for the whole family to
But
get
they
help.
put him in rehab for the drug use, not for his social problems. They didn't do anything about that.
I guess I'm under the impression, and I could be very wrong, but I'm under the impression if you're in a residential rehab, they're going to have therapists. Wouldn't they kind of notice that something was not right?
Some of them really don't get much. It just depends on where you're at.
Yeah, I know you're right now. Let's see here. So he went on this thing after he got off of heroin and he got out of rehab and everything. He went on this health thing and he lost a ton of weight and he got all arrogant and show-offy about it, became like very superior about it, but he still didn't know how to deal with young women. It was really creepy. A lot of creepy stories about him approaching them in the hallway and, hi, you want to go out with me? And they didn't even know who he was. Why did he pick the area of psychology that he picked to major in?
So tell us about why you chose your major. It's feeling like it was just a whim. Like he did one of those spin the bottle kind of things, and wherever it lands, that's what it is, because he really didn't know. He was very lost.
Well, did he pick, what school did he go to? DeSales, I think. DeSales, he went because Dr. Catherine Ramsland was teaching there. Did he pick that school for her?
So did you pick that school because of the professor, or was there another reason for choosing that school? He heard her speak or saw her, on a program somewhere and was impressed by her. So yeah.
See, I have a theory. I think a lot of people feel this way about it. He went into forensic psychology, and Dr. Ramsland is the premier expert on serial killers in the country. And her focus for a long time was BTK, Dennis Rader. She wrote the definitive books about him. She spent years doing one-on-one interviews with him and wrote a book about it. She's really, I think she's written over 65 books. She's literally written the book on serial killers and then also on mass murders. See where I'm going with this? And she's the teacher that becomes his mentor. And that's the school he picks to go to. And then look what he does. A mass murder. I just think it's too coincidental for me. It makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, well, the imprint that I feel from that is that he wanted to understand himself better. And that area of study interested him for that reason. But then as he got drawn into it, remember, he's mimicking things. He's not necessarily a creative thinker on his own.
Yeah. So that would be my question. Did he go into that to be a better killer and get away with it? Did he go into it to get away with the crimes he was tempted to commit?
So, Brian, would you say that you chose that area of study because you wanted to perpetrate crimes and get away with it? That was not initially what it was about. He was really trying to understand because he felt so lost. He wasn't getting support for whatever his disability was. He was just kind of lost in his own little world, and he was trying to crawl out of the abyss. And that felt like a lifeline. Okay, if I can understand why these other extreme crazy people did what they did, maybe I can understand myself better and be a better person. Because he wasn't at that point trying to be a mass murderer. He was trying to understand.
Well, he became obsessed with Ted Bundy to the extent that they found pictures after he was arrested where he had hiked to areas in California. Was it California? Well, somewhere.
I don't know.
Oh no, it must have been, maybe it was he was in Eastern Washington. Must have been in the woods, the mountains of Eastern Washington or Oregon.
Or I'm here in Oregon.
Yeah, Bundy dumped his bodies. He would go to those places because, they found the body, so they knew where, where to look. He would go there and he would take pictures of himself posing in front of the body dump.
Yeah. Well, I can feel the energy shifting. Initially that was his intent, was to understand himself better. But then he romanticized things. He didn't understand because he really is lacking in some kind of sensibility. So as he studied, he's drawn in, and then he's mimicking. He was always mimicking, trying to get along. So now he's mimicking people like Bundy because he's become fascinated and pulled in. It's like the little child who crawled to the edge of the abyss, looked in, and somebody grabbed him by the throat and pulled him in. Now they're gone. That's the feeling I get.
One interesting factor, I wish I had written down why his mother did this, but his mother went to the defense of Ted Bundy, and he was all in on that. So there was this little common kind of thing that they shared. So when did he start stalking women?
So when would you say that you started stalking women? Yeah, I know you don't want to admit that, but you did. We know that you did. So when did that start for you? It's like 13, 14 when the hormones kicked in. Started way early.
What was his intention?
So what was your intention? Well, he was just trying to be like the other guys. It's cool to have a girlfriend. He wanted a girlfriend, but they didn't want anything to do with him. So he's thinking, okay, I'm going to follow them. I'm going to learn about them. I'm going to let them know that I'm interested and maybe they'll respond. But, he was too creepy.
Can he describe his animosity towards women?
So can you tell us about your feelings of animosity towards women? After so many rejections, he just built up. He was feeding this burning coal in the pit of his stomach, and it just kept getting bigger and hotter, and then he would act out on it because it was just a festering wound inside of him.
When did he specifically choose this house full of University of Idaho students as a target?
So can you tell us about when you chose this Idaho? Was it a sorority house?
No, it was off-campus student housing, but
Okay.
it was a house full of girls, friends, they weren't a sorority.
Okay.
Kind of like the sorority house that Ted Bundy attacked in Florida.
Oh, okay. So when did you choose this house of students, female students, to attack? He was planning it for about a year. So there was something about one of the people in the house or more than one of the people? Was there a specific person that you were targeting? Yeah, there was one in particular he had his eye on, and the friends were just, along for the ride.
So That's always been the assumption. Did he identify them through the internet, through social media, or was it the restaurant?
So, did you find and target these girls through social media? Did you see them live and in person somewhere? How did that come about? No, he first saw them live, and then he found out the names and started tracking the social media. So it was a combination.
So did he eat at the vegan restaurant?
So did you eat at the vegan restaurant? He didn't eat there. He just had a coffee.
But he knew that they were waitressing.
Did you know that they were waitressing there? Yeah, he saw them there. And, they were nice and polite because that's the job. And he took that the wrong way.
So which one was his target?
So can you tell us which one was your target? I'm hearing Julie. Was there a Julie in the group? Or J name? No? Yeah, so if you tell me their names, I can go through them one at a time and ask him.
Okay, well, I doubt that it was Xana and Ethan. I think that they were collateral damage. It was one of two girls. Hang on. I always get her name wrong. Madison Mogan or Kaylee Gonsalves.
Okay. So can you tell us, was it Madison or Kaylee that you were targeting? Kaylee.
Did he know that who was in the house that night? Because, here's the situation. The house was set up for 6 people and 6 girls who were loosely affiliated. 2 of them, Kaylee and Madison, had been best friends since grade school, or maybe middle school. And so they had gone all the way through school together, including college, and they were like sisters. They were from Coeur d'Alene. But Kaylee was kind of an ambitious go-getter, and she got done a semester early. So she had actually finished school. And this is, the murder was November 13th. She'd finished school, and she had actually left the house and gone back home to Coeur d'Alene to do a job interview. She got a job, a good job, but she had a month before she had to start. So she was going to go to Europe. She was going to backpack in Europe. So getting ready for her job before she left for Europe, she bought a car. So this particular weekend was the weekend of a big football game. Big deal. Big football game. And so she decided to go back to campus to show her best friend, Madison, her new car, stay for the weekend, go to the game, say goodbye, go to Europe, come home and work. And then Madison was scheduled to graduate in a few months, in spring. And, they would get on with being friends and get on with their lives. So how did he work around that? Because what happened was girl number 6 ended up with the crummy room in the basement. The house was this weird split level 3-floor conglomeration. It was just a maze. It was ridiculous, this house. And the girl that lived in the very far basement left, and they got a new girl that came in. And then there was another girl that left. So long story short, there was the 2 girlfriends, Kaylee and Madison, at the top floor. On the ground floor was the kitchen and a couple of bedrooms. In one bedroom was one of the roommates, another girl. And in the other bedroom was their roommate, Xana, and her boyfriend stayed overnight. and they knew him really well. It was part of their larger crowd. And on the very bottom floor, which was the basement room, was the other girls. So there were the two girls on the top floor, and everybody knew one of them had to have been the target. Then there was the couple, only one of whom lived in the house. The other was a guest. And the other resident of the house. So there were 1, 2, 3 girls, other than the two in the top. So out of 6 girls who were supposed to be there, 5 were there, and a boyfriend. And he never knew about the girl in the basement, or he lost interest or whatever. And he walked right past the girl who was on the ground floor on the same level as Xana and her boyfriend. We'll get to that. So when he came in, he made a beeline for upstairs. He knew where he was going. I'm confused. If he was after Kaylee, did he not know that she had left? And then it was just coincidence that she was there that weekend? I'm curious about the timing. Yeah.
So how many victims were there?
4.
Okay. For some reason, I was thinking I'd heard 3. So there were 4.
Yeah.
So
Well, he killed the 2 girls on the top floor. He killed the girl and her boyfriend on the ground floor.
Wow.
And the other girl in the other bedroom heard coming and going, heard commotion. It was a big party house. So, she kind of tried to ignore it. And at a couple of points looked out and didn't see anything. And at the last moment, she looked out just in time to have him walk right past her in the dark. So we'll have to ask him about that. But in the meantime, and then he didn't even bother with the girl in the basement.
Freaky.
So, yeah. And so my question first for him is, what was his understanding of who was supposed to be in the house?
Okay. So, Brian, help us understand. When you went to the house, were you there specifically for Kaylee? Was that your purpose? Okay. And what about the other people? Because surely you had to know that they would be in the way. What he's showing me, he was like a hunting dog with a target. He wasn't thinking about anything else except his target. That was the primary. And it was like everything else shut down, and he just followed his nose to her. And then everything else happened after that, was just collateral damage.
Did he not know that she had left, that she had graduated and she had left? She just by accident happened to be there.
Yeah, so she was away. She had left school. So how did you know that she was even there? Well, because he was keeping tabs on her. And so when she came back, he thought, okay, this is my chance. I don't know if I'm going to get another one, because he probably knew she was planning to go away. It's now or never. And so that put urgency on it. And maybe he was sloppier than he would have been otherwise because of that urgency.
Did he break into the house in the weeks before the murders?
Great question. So had you been in that house before? Did you break in, check it out? He's saying no. He could tell from the outside the approximate layout. Plus, he followed their social media. So there were pictures. He was able to get an idea from those pictures. But otherwise, he went blind.
Well, he was crazy lucky, because that house was like a labyrinth. By that, I mean, not only was the floor plan ridiculous, just all over the place, but there was obstacle after obstacle. There was a ping pong table with all those red Solo cups and ping pong balls and stuff all set up, and junk on the floor. And it's just remarkable that he didn't stumble or bump into things. I thought he might have studied the place.
He just showed me a picture. He had one of those things on his head, that infrared light. so he could see.
Oh, Kaylee had a dog, and she had complained a number of times about taking her dog out at night and into the back area and feeling like she was being watched. Had he been watching them from the woods above the house?
So were you watching them from the woods? Well, of course, because that's what you do. You study them for some period of time, so you get to know their habits. You see where they come and go, and you see when they go in the house where the lights go on when it's dark. So that's how you know without actually going in the house. You've got that idea. And then when you add in that infrared light, he didn't have to worry about those obstacles. He could see to get around.
She let the dog out, and the dog would disappear. Was he befriending the dog?
So were you befriending the dog when it came out at night? Yeah, he was feeding it scraps of food, good human food, so that they would bond.
Yeah, kind of thought so. So can he describe what happened that night? Because my big question is, was he surprised by the number of people that were in the house? Did he expect to find Kaylee alone? Because she wasn't. She was with her friend. And there's some question, was she in... There were two bedrooms, one of them her old bedroom and the other Madison's room. And there was debate. It was first said the two girls were together because her room was packed up. But later, it seemed like this room, the bed had been slept in and disturbed. So the question is, when he went upstairs, did he find Madison first and get mad? Because that's what the attack seemed like.
Okay. So when you went up the stairs, you had two bedrooms. Where did you go first? Did you go into Kaylee's packed up room or did you go into Madison's room? Which one of those did you go to? He went to Madison's room. So was she alone when you went in there? She was alone. Okay, and did you attack her then? He had to because she woke up. So he had to grab her really quickly before she woke other people up.
Did that attract Kaylee?
While you were attacking Madison, did Kaylee come in on you? Yes. So I'm not understanding. How did you take care of both of them without waking the people on the main floor?
They were awake.
They were awake.
So what happened was they had all been out all night, and they all converged back home about 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Ethan decided to spend the night, and he and Xana were in her room on the second floor with the kitchen, and with the roommate who saw him but never was hurt. And about 4 o'clock, Xana called and got a delivery of, I don't know if it was Taco Bell or someplace like that. She got a delivery of food, a DoorDash delivery. And he crossed paths with the DoorDash person. And I don't know, I'm curious about that. She says she saw somebody but didn't think anything of it. So I guess that would be a good question. But they were still awake. And I want to ask him, how did he encounter Xana? She was up and eating. Did he surprise her and she ran upstairs and he had to deal with her? There's some uncertainty about how the whole thing evolved. Who did he attack first? Who saw him? The roommate in the room with the door shut thought she heard Xana run up and down the stairs, or Kaylee, but it may have been, there was uncertainty which
Mhm.
one of them. Did Xana see him and hear what was going on upstairs and run upstairs to help, and he turned around and attacked her?
Yeah, you would
Or
think the
did
boyfriend would run up, right?
he was in bed asleep? He was in
Oh,
bed
he was
asleep.
asleep? Okay.
Yeah. Or did Kaylee run down the stairs to get help and draw him down there, and that's why he ended up killing? Yeah, in fact, the boyfriend had wounds on his legs because he was in bed asleep, and when he was attacked, he was lying on his back and he was fighting him off. He was taken completely by surprise.
I'll see if I can get him to show me the picture of what
How did
happened.
it happen? Yeah.
Can you show us the sequence of events, Brian? We would really appreciate that. So he creeps in with his light on, and he tiptoes up the stairs, and it feels like there's a creaky stair there too. But fortunately, that didn't wake them. So he goes up, and because he didn't know exactly the layout of the house, he got to Madison's room first. And so when she woke up, before he could, go out and find Kaylee, he had to deal with her. And so he dispatched her. And then Kaylee did hear, and she came running, and she jumped on his back. But he was able to quickly knock her to the floor. And then it feels like he gave her more stab wounds than he gave the others. And
He was
then,
mad.
yeah. So then what happened? The two girls are now dead or dying, and he's starting to creep down the stairs. And he hit that creaky stair, which got the other girl's attention, and she got up out of bed. She was approaching the stairs, and I think he met her like at the bottom, and he was able to grab her and deal with her pretty quickly. But then the noise, of course, is waking the boyfriend, and he's about to come. So he quickly took care of him. And at this point, he's really panicking because this did not go the way he planned it to. And he's realizing he needs to get out of Dodge before, somebody hears what's going on and shows up. And so then he ran out the door.
Before he left, when he was upstairs, which roommate said there's someone in the house?
So, Brian, did you hear somebody say there's someone in the house? It feels like it might have been the girl that was in the middle. When she woke up, she heard a noise, and she was saying it almost to herself. But
You mean
then,
Xana?
yeah, whatever her name was, that girl.
They got the food?
Yeah, yeah, and that's the one he met near the bottom of the stairs.
Yeah. Maybe she woke her boyfriend up telling him there's somebody in the house. Yeah. Yeah, because he really did a number on her. It was like he was angry. So when he left,
At that point, as he came down the stairs and he met the girl, he's now in a panic to get out of there because he was not anticipating running into all these people. He was
yeah.
focused on Kaylee. So it didn't go according to plan, and he really is freaking out and just wanting to get out of there, which that caused more of the frenzy and the anger of the attacks that exacerbated it.
So he thought he was clever. He had his phone turned off and took a roundabout way home, and got home and took a shower. And after he took a shower, he took a picture of himself in the bathroom mirror. And you can see him holding the camera and going like this and grinning. And he's got Band-Aids on his hand where he cut himself in the attack. It's the eeriest picture. Let me see if I can find it. When did he discover that he had left the knife sheath at the crime scene?
So, Brian, when did you realize that you left the knife sheath behind at the scene? it wasn't until after, when he got back and he was cleaning up, and he had like a checklist, and he was so proud of himself. He had this list of all the things he needed to do, to be aware of, to take care of, to clean up after himself. And he missed that one.
It's hard. You can't see well. It's like somebody else with a Band-Aid on his hand. You can't see it really well, just the lighting and the skin color and stuff. But forensic people were able to. But this is taken in his bathroom right after he killed them. He's congratulating himself.
Wow. Those eyes.
Mm-hmm. So when did he discover that he'd left? I wasn't listening. I'm sorry. I was hunting.
It was when he got back to the apartment and he's going through his checklist and he's getting cleaned up. And
right.
Oh, where is it? And then he realized he must have left it.
So he went back. They know from his phone records that he went back to the scene of the crime at 9 o'clock in the morning. What was his intention? Why did he go back?
So, Brian, why did you go back to the scene of the crime? Because that's how most people get caught, when they return to the scene of the crime. He was hoping he'd be able to get the sheath back if there were no police on the scene at that point. That's what he was hoping for.
Well, the first hint that this had happened. So Moscow, Idaho, it's a small town. The college is the whole town. Yeah. And there's not a lot of crime other than what's associated with the college students. Yeah. So this is Sunday after the big game, and everybody's sleeping it off, right? So 11 o'clock in the morning, almost noon, before anybody is even waking up. And they get a phone call. The police, 911, gets a phone call. There's a young guy on the phone, and he says, no, it's a girl actually in tears. And she says, there's somebody is passed out, and I can't wake them up on the floor. So that seemed really weird, given the amount of butchery that went on. That seemed like a ridiculous thing to say. What happened? This is so interesting. What happened was the girls were really good friends with their neighbors, and the kids across the street were a bunch of boys. And they also were a party house, and they had become really good friends with them over the years. And most of these girls were seniors and juniors. They all knew each other for quite a while. And in the house across the street was a guy called Hunter and his girlfriend. And they were very close friends with all of the girls. And so you need a little backstory about the girl that heard it happen, who opened her door and peeked out and saw him go by. Oh, that's the question we need to ask. I almost forgot. Did he know she was standing there in the door looking at him?
So, Brian, the girl who was in the basement.
No, she was on the second floor.
Oh, okay. So where's the girl in the basement?
She's on the third floor, the bottom floor, and the basement. The second floor is the kitchen and 2 bedrooms. The couple, the boy and girl, and the eyewitness. Let's just call her the eyewitness. Yeah. She was not hurt. He did not go to her room. She opened the door just in time to see him walk right by her. She described him. So did he know she was there, or was he in some sort of fugue state?
Okay. So you walked right by one of the girls. She was watching you from the door. Were you aware that you were being watched? No, because at that point, his focus was on getting out of the house, following, it's that autistic thing, following his list. And he's not going to divert from that. It's a ritual almost.
Yeah. So he gets home, he takes a shower, he takes his picture, he drives back to the house and realizes that nobody's found it. Around 11 o'clock, they get the phone call, 911. So the cops show up, and when they get there, there's this cluster of kids on the front yard. A couple of girls in tears, and then a guy and a girl. So what happened was, the girl who's the eyewitness is a year younger, and she had a reputation for being a big, gigantic, scaredy cat. So she had called any number of times in the middle of the night to the guys across the street. I heard a sound come over. I'm scared. And, she kind of the girl who cried wolf. And it
Yeah.
happened so often that she had this reputation. She would call and say she was scared, and everybody would roll their eyes and go, oh my God, here she goes again. And they didn't make fun of her, and they did respond, but it wasn't a sense of urgency. So when she called up that morning and said, I've been trying to call, I heard noises in the middle of the night and I don't know what happened, and I've been trying to call the roommates and nobody's answering their phone, and I'm really freaked out, and I'm afraid to leave my room. You guys need to come over. So they take their own sweet time getting dressed, get out, because they're also hungover, getting dressed and getting ready. And they come across the street, and he goes into the house and starts up the stairs. And when he gets about halfway up the stairs, at the top of the stairs is Xana's bedroom. And the door is open, and she's in a bloody heap. And he realizes, oh my God. So this girl who's the eyewitness, she's gone into some kind of state. She's just not coping well. So he didn't let anybody else go upstairs. He turned around and told her, someone's unconscious, call the police.
Okay.
He knew she was dead. He knew she'd been murdered. But this poor girl was already so freaked out, he didn't want to add to it. Very, very brave. He got them all out of the house, and then he went into the kitchen and got a kitchen knife. And because he was afraid there was still somebody, he was very courageous, because that is, imagine if you saw that, right? Can you imagine? So the police came, and for quite a long time, I don't want to misspeak, but like maybe half an hour or more, they didn't realize there were 2 more dead bodies upstairs. They had no idea, because nobody was reporting accurately who had been in the house, what had been going on. Everybody was just completely freaked out. And in the middle of all of this, they're putting up crime scene tape. They're not telling the kids anything. These kids don't know that anybody's dead except for the boy, Hunter. He knows that Xana is dead, but he doesn't want to say anything. So everyone's freaking out. Where are our friends? Where's Kaylee? Where's Madison? What happened? What's wrong with Xana? Who's passed out? They're just, it's chaos. And in the middle of all of it, who shows up but Ethan's triplet brother? Ethan is one of triplets. He has a triplet brother and a triplet sister.
What triplets? This is a new piece.
Yes. Ethan, the boyfriend.
Ethan,
the boyfriend, is a triplet.
Okay.
And all 3 of them go to the same school. They're all in the same grade in the same school and have all the same friends. And so in the middle of all this, and to make things more complicated, the friend across the street who was the first to see the body and call the police, his name is Hunter. Ethan's brother, the triplet, his name is Hunter. 2 different Hunters, just to make things more confusing. So Hunter, the brother, shows up, sees Hunter, the friend, freaking out, sees all these girls crying, and goes, where's my brother? What happened? And nobody wants to, the cops had to tell this poor kid, it was horrible. So eventually they sort out how many bodies they have. They discovered the dog closed in the bedroom, fine. And we should ask him that. Did he close the dog up in the bedroom?
So, Brian, did you lock the dog in the bedroom? He's saying no.
Kaylee must have.
Either that or Xana did, because she didn't want the dog interfering with the boyfriend. That's what I'm feeling. Like the dog didn't like the boyfriend, or would have bothered them, and so they just.
Oh, the dog was a huge, gigantic baby. No, I don't. You know what I think might have happened? I think the 2 girls upstairs were in separate rooms, he attacked the one. Kaylee is the owner of the dog. She had the dog with her. She probably slammed the door behind her and the dog was in the bedroom when she jumped up. Yeah.
Brian doesn't know about the dog.
Pardon?
Brian doesn't know about the dog being locked up, so that's why I
need to do with it.
Girl.
Okay, so there's another whole drama going on with him because he's a PhD student at Western Washington University in Pullman. They have one of the top forensic psychology programs in the country. Who'd have known, right? And he's really, really, really smart. He actually is very, very smart. He just is devoid of empathy or personality, but he's really smart. And they're having this gigantic problem with him. He arrived at the end of the summer and was a PhD candidate, which means he, there's a term for it. First, you're a PhD student and you're taking classes, and then you've done enough and you're ready to do your thesis and you're a candidate. I think that's how it works. So he hadn't gotten to that illustrious level yet, but what they do with PhD programs usually is you probably don't have to pay. What you do is they take it out of you and work. So you go and you become a TA, a teacher's assistant, and they assign you a professor and you do all the work for the professor. You teach the lower level classes. You teach, psychology 100 that has 350 kids in it. And you have to correct all the papers and you have to give all the tests and you have to meet with all the little separate study groups. And it's a really hard job, right? But that's how you learn, to be a doctor of of psychology. So he's dealing with all these students, and he's dealing with two sets of students. He's got the undergraduates who are young and, their grandmother is always dying and they can't get the paper to hand in, that kind of thing. And he's also dealing with his equals who are PhD candidates, and there aren't as many of them, and they're all super smart and high achievers. And so he's Mr. Arrogant. He's Mr. I'm smarter than everybody else. And there was a woman teacher in the psychology department. They had a meeting about him because he was abusive to the women students, arrogant and kind of a kiss up at the same time to the PhD candidates, but nasty and controlling and misogynistic and unnecessarily hard on grading and stuff to the girl students, lower level girls. Hundreds of complaints about him. Well, I'm exaggerating. Tens of complaints about him, creeping girls out, like standing in the doorway and not letting them leave the office, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the female professor, she's given interviews since then. She was in a meeting with the faculty of the department, and she said, we have to do something about this guy now, because my area of expertise is these narcissistic, psychopathic characters. This guy is dangerous. And if we continue with him in our program, he will get his PhD because he's one of the smartest students I've ever had. But there's something wrong with him, and we can't let this continue, and we have to nip it in the bud now before it's too late. And he's got a lawsuit on his hand against us. We have to put an end to it. And so they had to establish a protocol. They had to follow the protocol. So first there had to be documentation of a meeting one-on-one with his mentor in the department. And he had to be given a written criticism and a written plan of how to get better and a deadline. We're going to check back in a month and we're going to see how you're doing. And then they had to quietly ask the younger students, has he improved? And the complaints were double. It was worse and worse and worse. And so then they had to go up to like the dean or whoever, take it to the administration. They had all these behind the scenes meetings. It was serious. And when he left for Christmas break with his father, what he did not know was that they had just mailed a letter kicking him out of the program. So he could still go to the school. He could still study graduate classes, but he was no longer being mentored within the PhD program, and he would have to pay tuition. He would not be making money because he would no longer be allowed to be a TA. But he didn't know that. It crossed in the mail. It came after he had left for vacation. And the whole drive home across the country, he was telling his father all these really arrogant stories about how, well, they don't know what they're talking about, and they're just jealous because I'm so smart, and women, women, they have problems, and they're going to have to give in to me because I'm right and they're wrong. I mean, it was just, as you can imagine. So interesting thing happened on the way home. They were in Indiana, and you can watch this on YouTube because it's police body cam. I told you I monitor police body cam. So lo and behold, they pull him over because in Indiana, they were working with the DEA. They were going after drug trafficking because the highway that he was on was a main artery for that cross state lines. And so they were stopping every car with an out-of-state license. So they're driving, he's driving, his father's sitting next to him. The lights come on, you see from the police vantage, the lights come on, and he follows the car and he parks behind them. And the cop gets out, and you see the whole conversation between the cop and the dad in the passenger seat and Brian over there by the steering wheel. And it was weird because can you imagine what he must have thought when the police pulled him over? Can you really imagine? Yeah. So
well,
they gave him
maybe not with that kind of personality. He might not have felt that.
Ask him.
Okay. So Brian, what were you thinking when the police pulled you over in Indiana? He was sweating it a little bit, but not too much.
After the fact, his father expressed, I was really worried, and not because he thought his son killed 4 students. He hadn't made that connection, but he knew there was something not right about his son, and he thought, oh God, now what has he done? Well, so 15 minutes later, yeah, exactly. 15 minutes later, they got pulled over again by a different cop. So the interesting part, and it was just coincidental, all part of this drug thing. So what's really funny about it is that they were unaware that the FBI had been surveilling him since early December. They were pretty sure it was him because the car was identified. So he doesn't know this, but they've got an FBI airplane flying along with them overhead. And all this surveillance tag team of FBI cars and all the way back home to Pennsylvania. And they kept him under surveillance at home in Pennsylvania. So I have a question for him about that. When he got home, the first thing he did was scrub out his car. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, before we go there, when did the murders happen?
November 13th.
Okay, so November 13th. So then he goes back to school.
He goes back to school.
This happens in December. Okay.
Yeah, goes back to school, finishes off the semester. It was only a couple of weeks. He's deteriorating rapidly. He's looking disheveled. He's weirder. People report, before anybody knew, they were monitoring him already. And they were talking about, this guy's getting worse. God, we have to get rid of him. The faculty came to the decision that they were kicking him out of the PhD program. And they had got all their ducks in a row, all the paperwork and documentation to protect themselves. It's the only thing that was delaying it. And it just so happened that it didn't get to his house until after he'd left for Christmas vacation.
So did the cops know he was going to get kicked out of the program, the FBI?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I'm just trying to figure out the sequence of events and, where he's at in that process.
I don't think that the psychology department knew he was a suspect. I don't think it ever occurred to them. I don't think the college in Washington State suspected him. I don't think that there was a lot of communication from the police in Idaho. There was a huge problem with communication from the police in Idaho because they are very, well, it's Idaho. Do I have to say it? It's a great American readout.
Yeah.
We're the cops, and they were not forthcoming about any information. They held everything really tight to their chest. And when he was indicted and they set a court date for trial, it was impossible. The judge put a, what's it called when they silence them? A gag order. I wanted to say a mute, and I knew that was wrong. A gag order. Yeah. So it was very frustrating for people because there was so much speculation. There's a thing I forgot to ask about that I'm pretty curious about. So he was an expert on the internet. Probably could teach me something. He scrubbed all of his devices clean, and he did a really good job. They had FBI high-tech forensic investigators going through his computer and phone and everything, and they were having a really hard time. They said he really knew what he was doing. There was this, I don't know what to call it, thing that they suspect very strongly that he was responsible for, but they can't prove it because he did such a good job of covering his tracks. So there is some, I don't have the vocabulary, some social media thing that is, you can do it anonymously. And there was this guy, we're going to assume it's a guy. There was this guy who his little picture was a cartoon, but it looked like Brian Kohberger. And he called himself, what did he call himself? Captain. Oh my God. Do you remember the guy who shot the students in Santa Barbara in Isla Vista? And he was an incel. And before he did it, he sat in his car and he made a manifesto for a couple of hours talking about why the world hated him and he hated the world and he hated women. And do you remember that?
I don't follow that stuff.
Well, it was shocking at the time because it was the first glimpse into, the psychology maybe. Okay, I'm going to get the name for you. It matters.
So was it 4chan that he was on? The anonymous site? Was it called 4chan?
I don't know. But anyway, I think Captain Roger was the name of this cartoon, and the guy that was interacting under that alias. Mm-hmm. And his hero was Elliot Rogers, and Elliot Rogers was the kid that killed a bunch of students in Isla Vista, UCSB, Santa Barbara. This is a picture of the video of him recording himself explaining why the world hated him and he hated the world. It was all over the news. If I know about it, everybody knows about it. So anyway, Kohberger kind of hero worshiped this guy. And there is suspicion that this cartoon character was really Kohberger in disguise. And there was a lot of weird talk going back and forth. And they wanted to see if it was him, to get some insight into his psychology, but they were never able to do it. Yeah.
They couldn't prove it, but they think it's him.
Yeah, they suspect. Let's put it that way. There's a high level of suspicion, but there's no evidence. Yeah.
Okay, so you want to ask him that? Was that him?
Yeah, ask him if he was.
Okay. So Brian, was that did you have an anonymous account calling yourself Captain something?
Roger.
Roger,
I think it was Captain. Yeah.
were you on an anonymous site sharing about what you were planning to do? Yeah, I get a yes.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
I don't know. It's weird. There's a feeling of conflict, like he was such a loner, and yet he was building up all this steam, and he needed some kind of an outlet. Because I don't think he normally would have done that. But
Well, I don't
as
think he was a loner by choice. I think he was a loner because he was a reject, because he was
yeah,
so disturbingly weird. And I think
but
he
he was.
wanted to be connected. And he harbored quite a lot of anger and resentment and a sense of victimhood. You know, he blamed everybody else for his inadequacies. But that's a very narcissistic thing to do. You know, you're never to blame. It's always somebody else.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
weirdo.
It's like he was building up such a head of steam that he kind of stepped out of what he normally would have done. He had to let off some of the pressure.
Yeah.
So that might have been what it was about.
I don't know how you feel about this. Should we try to ask the victims how the crime unfolded, or is that too much?
I'm okay with it if you're okay, but there was another question you wanted to ask Brian, and I interrupted you, and then we went past it.
I think it was about Roger, that persona. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think I had another question. Oh, I know what it was. Cleaning out his car.
Oh, yes, cleaning the car. Okay. So what did you want to know about that?
Just, it seems pretty obvious, but I have to ask. His sister started spying on him. I think his sister began to suspect something, his psychology sister.
Mm-hmm.
And she reported that she saw him in the middle of the night in latex gloves, packing up his garbage into Ziploc bags and taking it next door to the neighbor's trash can. Does he want to talk about that? And then also detailing inside and outside of his car. The FBI saw him doing that.
Okay. So, Brian, can you tell us about what was going on when you were cleaning out the car? Yeah, that was all part of the plan. You know, his checklist. The sooner he had the opportunity, he had to make sure he removed the evidence, and he was very thorough because he studied how to do these things.
Did his sister suspect him?
Do you think that your sister suspected you? Well, not at first because it was so disconnected, but later on when people started making inquiries, then she just kind of felt sick, like, yeah.
Yeah.
What might she?
I'm sorry. Did he take a plea because he didn't want his family to have to testify, or did he take a plea because of the death penalty?
So what was your motivation for taking the plea? No, he didn't feel any loyalty to the family. It wasn't about them. It was about him saving his neck. He's not ready to die. And he's got this big grudge, you know, he still has a big grudge he wants to do something about.
What are his plans for the near future?
Well, you know, big picture, we have somebody in a position of power who's been pardoning people who've done heinous things.
I think that'd be just a little too much, though, because he's not a political person.
For you and I, but in his mind, he's an important person, and maybe he could curry favor. If you know, it's fantasy, but
yeah. Oh well, I guess maybe we could ask the girls what happened that night. I feel badly because I think it kind of crosses the line a little bit with their loved ones, but I doubt that they'll ever see this. So I suppose it's okay. And it's not for the gory details. It's more, I would love to know the sequence of events of what happened, more from solving the puzzle, because they don't know for sure, you know, what was the order of people that he attacked. Like, did Xana catch him when she was in the kitchen, or did she go upstairs and see him in the middle of what he was doing? Or, you know, I'm just curious about that.
So you want to start with Xana?
Well, just whoever wants to do it.
Okay. What is Xana's full name? Do you know?
Kernodle.
So Xana Kernodle.
Nodal.
Sorry.
Kernodle.
Kernodle. Okay. Xana
Unusual last name.
Kernodle.
Yeah.
Okay. So could you?
I guess our first question is, how sick was she of trying to explain her last name to people? Oh, I'm not kidding you. That's a hard name.
Yeah, probably sick of it.
Yeah.
So could you tell us about what happened the night of the murders? She was asleep and she was woken up by a sound. So she got up. She went to the kitchen. There was nothing there. It was dark. She thought she heard something upstairs, so she headed towards the stairs. And that's when he came almost plunging down the stairs and, you know, practically knocked her over. So
is she the one who said there's someone in the house?
So were you the one that said there's somebody in the house? When she's in the kitchen, she heard something upstairs. And just the hackles on her neck went up, and that's when she said it. So maybe the voice carried from the kitchen, and that's how it was heard.
Yeah. Well, it was on the same floor. The kitchen and those 2 bedrooms were on the same floor.
Oh, okay.
So had he finished killing the 2 girls upstairs and he was on his way out when he ran into her?
That's the impression she had, because she didn't know, of course, at that point, but he just came blasting down the stairs and, you know, like knocked her down with all that energy, that adrenaline. So it was like, bam, you know, she was knocked out pretty quickly.
She fought him off. So I always think there was an element of anger. He was angry that she was there. It was,
you know, that she was struggling, but he knocked the wind out of her. You know, she's down. And then, of course, you know, she's trying because it's reflex at that point.
Yeah.
But it was really fast.
At what point did Ethan wake up?
Do you know when Ethan woke up? Well, he woke up when he heard her hit the floor. So Brian dispatched her really quickly so he could get to Ethan before he got up. Ethan must have had too much to drink because he wasn't moving fast.
Well, they all had. They were all out partying. You know, that was a party school. It was college. Yeah. So were a lot of her wounds post-mortem?
So were the wounds post-mortem? She doesn't know. It was very confusing. It was just like a blizzard, you know, of strikes.
Yeah. Had she ever suspected that there was a stalker around the house?
Did you ever have an inkling that there was a stalker in your neighborhood? Yeah, sometimes they would get the willies. They just had these weird feelings, but there was nothing concrete. And she's saying that exacerbated it for the other girl, the one who was always afraid. She had reason to be afraid. She felt
that's right. Yeah. I don't have any other questions for her. It's too sad. Yeah. So should we ask the 2 girls that were upstairs, you know, what happened up there?
Yeah. specific or just in general?
Well, I'm curious. I'm curious if they recognized him. Did they know? Because he had been insinuating himself in their lives. They both worked for a while at a vegan restaurant, and there was a lot of suspicion that that's where their paths crossed. And he seems to say that, yeah, that is where their paths crossed. It's unlikely that they would recognize him in a brief, let me give you coffee, But then again, he's a weirdo,
Mm-hmm.
They might remember him.
Yeah, they might have seen him around, just in the area, background. So let's start with Madison. So, Madison, did you recognize this man who attacked you? For her, she didn't, because it happened so fast and she was asleep. So coming out of a dead sleep and then just being attacked, there wasn't time to recognize.
Okay. And then what about Kaylee?
And so for Kaylee, did you recognize Brian? Well, she came in and his back was to her. She jumped up on the back and grabbed him to pull him off of Madison. So she didn't see his face then. And then, when he flipped around and started attacking her.
He must have been enraged. It seemed like he was really mad at her. It was a real overkill. Yeah.
It was a blur, so she didn't really have time to focus and have that recognition.
Yeah. Well, in a way, that's good.
Dark. Yeah.
Fast. Yeah, it's really sad. Well, I feel like I need to say that too much media attention was paid to, there's body camera video of them coming to the house a couple of different times when there was noise complaint because they were having party and it was, the cops are standing around outside trying to get somebody to answer the door. The music is boom, 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 boom. And when finally somebody answers the door, they don't know whose house it is. They're just here for the party. They have no idea. Is the owner at home? Oh, we don't know. It was kind of funny in a way, and also as a parent, it makes you just go, oh my God.
Yeah, but any one of those houses could have had that same experience. It should not have been unusual for the police.
You're absolutely right. And when I think about back to when I was in college, the risks I took, you know what I did? You're not going to believe this. I used to babysit for extra money. There was an employment office on campus, and you could put your name in, and they'd hook you up with people who needed a babysitter. I would get a call from a strange couple, and they'd say, yeah, we need you on Friday night at 7:00. My husband will pick you up outside the dorm. I get in the car with a complete stranger. Didn't even think about it. I think about it now and I'm freaking out. At the time, I didn't even think about it. And I'd get in the car and we would go oftentimes get on the LA freeway and go somewhere. I had no idea where I was. I didn't know who I was with. We'd end up at a house. I had no idea if they had like shackles in the basement. It never occurred to me. So, when you're young, you're not, I don't know, you're missing some sort of neurological development or something. I don't know. Did you ever do anything stupid like that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good. That makes me feel better somehow. Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess I can't think of any other questions. Do you have any?
No, I just want to say sorry to the girls. Sorry it had to be that way, and to Ethan too. It's just unfortunate.
You know who I feel the worst for? Ethan's brother and sister. They just were. And his friend Hunter, his brother Hunter, but his friend Hunter. They did interviews with them after the fact. The kids across the street who discovered the crime. And they, they dropped out of school and can't work and are heavily into the post-traumatic stress of the whole thing. It really affected them. Felt so sorry for them.
At that time in your life, you kind of feel like you're invincible. And then all of a sudden you find out I could die tomorrow.
And to lose friends that way, I mean, it's hard enough to lose friends in an accident or an illness, but that is particularly
Yeah.
really disturbing. Yeah, just
Just
awful.
destroyed the foundation.
Yeah, it shakes your security and your faith in people. You wouldn't know who to trust. Well, I doubt very much they would have trusted him anyway. He was so creepy. There are all kinds of stories about him with young women, and now we just won't go into them. But, you know, unbelievable stories. Well, I think our work here is done. Thank you. This was not solving a crime, but trying to understand, you know, and I think the moral of this story is if you have a child who has evidence of not being quite okay, for God's sake, get them help. You know, don't you agree? Yeah.
Too many parents in denial.
And to play devil's advocate, good therapy is very expensive.
It is, and benefits and options are being cut every day.
Oh,
We desperately need a rehaul of the mental health system.
my husband worked in the medical field. We had no coverage for that kind of thing. I'm not implying that I need to see a serious therapist or anything. But, you know, anything like that, any kind of ancillary treatment that, you know, physical therapy, you know, you couldn't even dream of accessing something like acupuncture or, you know, it just, it's not going to happen. Yeah.
Well, you know, and because of the way education has been decimated, even the good teachers who might see it and say something, not there.
No. And now they have downgraded all kinds of professions so that it's harder for them to get student loans.
Mm-hmm.
And it will be harder to access insurance as professionals. Nurses, physical therapists, occupational therapists, social workers, architects. Oh my God, all the buildings in the country are going to start falling down. And you know, most of the professions, if you look at them, they have something in common. Can you figure out what it is?
Women.
Yes, absolutely. They're predominantly women in those professions. More men than there used to be, but still a larger proportion of women. And now, you know, anyone who thinks that nursing is not profession is delusional. Because, you know, no offense, but nurses do all the work. Sorry, doctors, but it's the truth. Nurses do all the work, the hard work, the really hard work, the kinds of things that matter the most to patients, the day-to-day comfort and reassurance and basic needs. And man, we're not valuing any of that anymore. Oh, don't get me started.
Bad time.
Yeah. Thank you, Deborah. We have more to do. So thanks very much for doing that. And thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope that was revelatory. Slán go fóill. Slán.